Many are questioning the marital status of former President Barack Obama and his wife Michelle Obama. There are growing questions about some kind of divorce or separation.
We have to understand that marriage is never 50-50. You sort of wonder how that idea kind of got out there.
For years, Michelle and Barack Obama were seen as the ultimate power couple, a symbol of love and strength that endured even under the weight of the presidency. Their marriage appeared unshakable, a rare example of unity between high-profile couples. But now, after 32 years, Michelle Obama has finally confirmed why she divorced Barack Obama. From unspoken sacrifices to bitter fights and cheating allegations involving Jennifer Aniston, the truth behind their divorce is even more compelling than the headlines ever suggested. Long before she became the First Lady of the United States, Michelle Robinson was a force to be reckoned with. Born and raised in the South Side of Chicago, she was driven, intelligent, and fiercely independent. She worked her way through Princeton and Harvard Law, defying expectations at every turn. After earning her law degree, Michelle returned to Chicago and took a job at the prestigious law firm Sidley Austin. It was at Sidley Austin that Michelle met a young, ambitious summer associate named Barack Obama. He was charming, confident, and had a vision for the future that intrigued her. At first, Michelle was hesitant about dating him. She had worked too hard to establish herself in her career, and she didn't want to be distracted. But as they spent more time together, she realized that Barack was different. He wasn't just intelligent, he had a sense of purpose that matched her own. As their relationship grew, Michelle found herself drawn to Barack's passion for politics and activism. He spoke about wanting to make a difference on a large scale, and although she admired his vision, she also worried about the sacrifices that came with such ambitions. Even though she supported Barack's dreams, she had her own. She was never content with being in the background, and she had no intention of simply being the wife of a politician. As Barack's political career took off, Michelle found herself at a crossroads. She knew that if she stood by his side, her life would change forever. She had worked so hard to build her own career, her own identity, and she feared that being married to a rising politician would mean sacrificing the things she had fought for. But she also loved him, and she believed in his vision. Their marriage was filled with love, but it was also tested by the weight of Barack's rising career. When he decided to run for the Illinois State Senate, Michelle had to adjust to the demands of being a politician's wife. She had to balance her own career with the responsibilities of supporting Barack, attending events, and handling the pressure that came with being in the public eye. She never wanted to be just a political spouse, and she made it clear that she had her own identity, ambitions, and dreams that she refused to give up. As Barack's political career advanced, the challenges in their marriage grew. The more successful he became, the less time they had together. Late nights, constant travel, and the never-ending demands of politics created a distance between them. Michelle often found herself alone, taking care of their growing family while Barack was out campaigning or attending meetings. The weight of responsibility fell on her shoulders, and there were times when she felt like she was raising their daughters, Malia and Sasha, on her own. For many years, Michelle Obama stood beside Barack, supporting his dreams, sacrificing her own ambitions, and playing the role of the perfect political wife. She smiled for cameras, raised their two daughters while Barack spent long nights away, and held down the family as he climbed higher and higher in his career. To the world, they looked like the perfect couple, deeply in love and completely united. But behind the carefully managed public image, there were struggles that only they knew about. Struggles that slowly built up over the years and created a distance that neither of them could ignore. When Barack Obama eventually ran for president, Michelle knew that life as they knew it would never be the same. She had already felt the weight of his political ambitions when he was a senator, but running for the highest office in the country meant that their marriage would no longer belong to just them. It would belong to the public. Every word, every moment, every interaction between them would be scrutinized, analyzed, and judged. The pressure was enormous, and while Barack seemed to thrive in that world, Michelle often felt like she was losing herself. During the long and grueling campaign trail, Barack was constantly traveling, shaking hands, making speeches, and attending endless meetings. Michelle, who had once been independent and career-driven, had to take on a new role, one that revolved entirely around supporting him. She had to stand on stages, wave to crowds, and put on a smile, even when she was exhausted or frustrated. She had to raise their daughters, make sure their family still felt normal, and deal with the relentless media attention that invaded every part of their lives. When Barack became president, their marriage entered an entirely new level of strain. The White House was not just a home. It was a place of constant surveillance, security briefings, and political strategy. They could no longer be a normal couple, spending quiet nights together or going out for a simple dinner. Their lives were dictated by schedules, protocols, and public expectations. Barack had the weight of an entire nation on his shoulders, and while Michelle understood that, it didn't change the fact that she often felt alone. Even when they were in the same room, there was a distance between them. Barack, always deep in thought, was consumed by the responsibilities of leading a country. He was constantly surrounded by advisors, cabinet members, and world leaders, leaving little time for Michelle or their daughters. When he did come home, he was exhausted, mentally drained, and often distracted by the next crisis or political challenge. Michelle, who had spent years sacrificing for his career, found herself wondering if the man she had married was still the same person she had fallen in love with. Over time, resentment began to build. Michelle had always been fiercely independent, someone who carved her own path and refused to be defined by anyone else. But in her marriage, she had slowly become someone she barely recognized. She had put aside her own dreams, silenced her own voice, and made endless compromises, all in the name of supporting Barack. There were moments when she tried to express her frustration, moments when she told Barack that she felt like she was losing herself in the life they had built. But Barack would simply dismiss her with vague promises that things would get better. He would tell her that they were a team, that he needed her, that the hard times would pass. But the hard times never really passed. There was always another crisis, another campaign, another moment where his work took priority over everything else. Michelle had spent years pretending that everything was fine, convincing herself that this was the life she had chosen. But deep down, she knew that something was missing. She had given so much of herself to this marriage, to this partnership, but she no longer felt like she was getting the same in return. The emotional connection that had once been the foundation of their relationship had started to fade. Friends and insiders who were close to the Obamas started noticing the cracks in their marriage. Michelle was no longer the same woman who had once been Barack's biggest champion. She seemed tired, distant, and at times even disillusioned with the life they had built together. She had spent years playing the role of the supportive wife, but now she was starting to question whether that role was worth the personal cost. Then came the moment that changed everything. After years of burying her feelings, years of pushing aside her own needs for the sake of their public image, Michelle finally reached a breaking point. She had spent decades being the rock of their family, the glue that held everything together, the woman who stood by her husband no matter what. But now she had to ask herself if she could keep sacrificing her own happiness just to maintain the illusion of a perfect marriage. For the first time in her life, she realized that true strength wasn't about holding on, it was about knowing when to let go. When news of Michelle and Barack Obama's divorce first surfaced, the world was in shock. For decades, they had been seen as one of the strongest, most admired couples in modern history. At first, the announcement of their separation was handled with careful language, designed to make it seem like an amicable, mutual decision. Almost immediately, media outlets began dissecting every aspect of their relationship, searching for clues that might explain what had gone wrong. Old interviews were re-examined, body language experts analyzed their past public appearances, and so-called insiders came forward with stories about the tensions that had been building behind the scenes. Some pointed to Michelle's own words in her book, Becoming, where she had admitted that there were times she resented Barack's political career and the sacrifices she had made to support him. Others recalled moments in his presidency when Michelle appeared distant, even unhappy, as if the weight of their public life had become too much to bear. As the days passed, new rumors began to surface, each one adding to the growing speculation. Some claimed that Michelle had grown tired of always being in Barack's shadow, that she had long felt like her own ambitions had been placed on hold for the sake of his career. Others suggested that Barack's post-presidency lifestyle had driven a wedge between them, that their once unbreakable bond had weakened as they pursued separate projects and interests. The media frenzy only intensified when reports emerged about the division of their assets and financial settlements. Unlike many political couples, the Obamas were not just powerful together, they were individually successful, with their own multi-million-dollar book deals, business ventures, and personal wealth. The biggest concern for many, however, was how their divorce would impact their daughters, Malia and Sasha. Having grown up in the White House under intense public scrutiny, the two young women had always been shielded from the harsh realities of their parents' political life. Now, they were at the center of one of the most high-profile separations in history. While both had already stepped into their own lives as independent adults, the idea of their parents splitting after more than 3 decades together was something the world had not expected. Despite the chaos surrounding them, Michelle remained composed in public. She carried herself with the same grace and strength she had always been known for, refusing to let the headlines control her narrative. Michelle made it clear this wasn't about money, power, or external pressure. It was about reclaiming her life. Post-divorce, Michelle Obama didn't just survive, she thrived. One of the first steps in her new journey was expanding her influence beyond politics. She had already made a name for herself as a best-selling author with Becoming, a memoir that resonated with millions of readers around the world. In the wake of her divorce, she decided to take that momentum even further by launching new initiatives, writing more books, and stepping even more boldly into the world of media and entertainment. She recognized that she had a voice that people trusted and admired, and she intended to use it to inspire and uplift others. Michelle also focused on her role as a mother, ensuring that her daughters, Malia and Sasha, adjusted to the changes in their family with strength and understanding. While they were both adults by the time of the divorce, she remained deeply protective of them, making sure they knew that despite the end of their parents' marriage, they were still part of a family built on love and respect. She maintained a strong relationship with them, often spending time together in private while shielding them from the overwhelming public scrutiny that had followed them since childhood. At the same time, Michelle began to explore new business ventures and collaborations that reflected her passions. She expanded her presence in the entertainment industry, working on documentary projects, producing inspirational content, and partnering with organizations that focused on education, health, and women empowerment. Meanwhile, Barack Obama faced a different reality. The media began to closely follow every detail of his romantic future, and every new friendship or public appearance was examined with an intensity that few celebrities ever experience. The former president found himself at the center of the spotlight, with the public and press alike eager to discover if he would soon find a new partner to fill the void left by his long marriage. In the midst of this relentless attention, rumors began to swirl that painted a picture of Barack as a man seeking solace in unexpected places. One rumor that gained significant traction involved a supposed relationship with the famous actress Jennifer Aniston. This particular rumor, fueled by several tabloid reports, captured the public's imagination and became one of the most persistent narratives in the media. Many articles claimed that there were private meetings and secret rendezvous between Barack and Jennifer Aniston, suggesting that their connection was not just professional, but hinted at a deeper, more personal involvement. The rumors surrounding Jennifer Aniston, although never confirmed by either party, added another layer of complexity to the public's perception of him. The scrutiny was unrelenting, with every new development being dissected by commentators and analysts who debated the impact of these personal decisions on his legacy. But through it all, Michelle remained graceful, never engaging in the drama, never looking back. In the end, Michelle Obama's story isn't just about a divorce. It's about reinvention, resilience, and the power of choosing oneself. Her marriage to Barack was a defining chapter in American history, but it wasn't the only chapter. And as she steps into this new phase of her life, she reminds the world that even the strongest women sometimes have to walk away to truly find themselves. Her legacy is no longer tied to Barack Obama. It's her own. And that may be the most powerful statement of all.